In the heart of ancient Rome, where power and politics intertwined like vines on a trellis, there lived a woman whose story defied the very constraints of her time. Imagine a world where every gesture, every whispered word could tip the scales of destiny. A world where women were often seen as mere chess pieces in the grand game of empires. Yet in this world, one woman dared to stand apart, armed not with sword and shield, but with an indomitable spirit and a philosophy that would echo through the ages. This, dear viewers, is the tale of PORCIA CATO. The year is 44 BCE. Rome trembles under the growing shadow of Julius Caesar's ambition. Amidst the marble columns and whispered conspiracies, a figure moves with quiet determination. She is PORCIA CATO, daughter of the renowned Stoic philosopher Cato the Younger, wife of Marcus Brutus, and a force of nature in her own right. But PORCIA was far more than the sum of her illustrious connections. In an era that sought to silence women, she became the living embodiment of Stoic principles, a philosophy often misunderstood in our modern times. Now, you might be wondering, Stoicism? Isn't that just for old, privileged white men? Let me stop you right there, for nothing could be further from the truth. Stoicism, at its core, is a universal philosophy, a beacon of wisdom that transcends gender, race, and social standing. It's a way of life that has been embraced by men and women of all backgrounds throughout history and continues to inspire people from all walks of life today. PORCIA's story shatters these misconceptions. She shows us that Stoicism is not about emotionless endurance, but about finding inner strength in adversity. It's about standing firm in your convictions when the world seeks to shake you. And most importantly, it's about recognizing the inherent worth and potential in every human being, regardless of gender or social status. So I ask you, have you ever felt the weight of society's expectations crushing your dreams? Have you ever yearned to find your voice in a world that seems determined to drown it out? If so, then you need to hear about PORCIA's journey. Over the next 40 minutes, we'll dive deep into the life of this remarkable woman. We'll explore how she navigated the treacherous waters of Roman politics, found equality in marriage during an age of inequality, and demonstrated her strength in ways that continue to astonish us today. But this isn't just a history lesson. We'll uncover how PORCIA's ancient wisdom can illuminate our modern lives. We'll learn to cultivate resilience, value our self-worth beyond societal expectations, and love fearlessly in a world that often seems bereft of courage. So prepare yourselves, dear viewers. We're about to embark on a journey through time. This journey will challenge your preconceptions, inspire your spirit, and transform how you see yourself and the world around you. This is the story of PORCIA CATO, the Stoic superwoman who defied an empire. By the end of this video, you'll understand why her legacy continues to resonate, inspiring people of all genders and backgrounds. Are you ready to meet PORCIA and discover Stoicism's true inclusive spirit? Then let our journey begin. Early life and background. Let's step back and look at where PORCIA CATO came from. Born around 70 BCE, PORCIA grew up in a world that was changing fast. Rome was mighty, but also full of conflict and prominent personalities. PORCIA's dad was a guy named Cato the Younger. Now, he wasn't just any old Roman, he was a big deal. Cato was known for being super honest and sticking to his principles no matter what. He was a follower of Stoicism, a philosophy that teaches people to focus on what they can control and not worry much about the rest. Growing up with a dad like Cato meant PORCIA wasn't raised like most Roman girls. Instead of just learning how to be a good wife, she was taught to think for herself and to be brave. Cato's ideas about honor and doing the right thing shaped how Porcia saw the world. Now, you might be thinking, that's all well and good, but how does this relate to me? Well, here's the thing. The way we grow up and the people around us all leave a mark. Just like her dad's ideas influenced Porcia, we're all shaped by our upbringing. Think about it for a second. What values did you learn growing up? How have they affected the way you see the world now? Porcia took those Stoic ideas and ran with them. She learned that true strength comes from inside, not from what other people think of you. She figured out that you can't always control what happens, but you can control how you react to it. There's this great quote from Marcus Aurelius, another famous Stoic. He said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Porcia's soul, it was dyed with courage, integrity, and fierce independence. But don't think for a second that Porcia had it easy. Being a woman in ancient Rome meant no walking in the park. Women didn't have many rights and were expected to do what they were told. But Porcia, she had other ideas. As we go through Porcia's story, remember how she used what she learned growing up to face some tough challenges. It's a reminder that no matter where we come from or what we're taught, we all have the power to shape our paths. So are you ready to see how Porcia used her unique upbringing to shake things up in ancient Rome? Let's move on to the next chapter of her incredible story. First, marriage and social expectations. Let's talk about marriage in ancient Rome. Trust me, it was nothing like what we see in romantic movies today. For women like Porcia, especially those from important families, marriage was more like a business deal than a love story. Imagine being a teenage girl and your dad tells you, "Hey, I've picked out a husband for you." That's what happened to Porcia. Her father, Cato the Younger, a big shot in Roman politics, arranged for her to marry Marcus Calpurnius Bibulus. Bibulus was older than Porcia, and not precisely the life of the party. He was mainly known for being Julius Caesar's rival. Now you might wonder, couldn't Porcia say no? Well, not really. In those days, Roman dads had a lot of power over their daughters' lives. They could decide who their daughters married, and the girls had little say in it. But here's where it gets even crazier. This other guy, Quintus Hortensius, was about 4 times older than Porcia. He wanted to marry her too. Can you believe it? He even suggested that Bibulus could lend Porcia to him so she could have his children, and then he'd give her back. It doesn't sound very good to us. But this was common back then. Women were often treated like they were there to have babies for powerful men. Luckily for Porcia, her dad and Bibulus said no to this weird arrangement. But it shows you how tough it was to be a woman in ancient Rome. They were expected to be good wives, have children, preferably boys, and support their husbands' careers. It was a lot of pressure. But here's where Porcia's story gets interesting. Despite all these crazy expectations, she didn't just sit around and do nothing. She used her position to learn about politics and philosophy. She watched, she listened, and she formed her own opinions. This quote from a Stoic philosopher named Epictetus fits here. He said, "Circumstances don't make the man. They only reveal him to himself." For Porcia, these challenging circumstances revealed her strength and determination to be more than just somebody's wife. Take a moment to think about people's expectations for you in your life. It could be about your job, relationships, or how you should act. How do those expectations shape your choices? Have you ever felt like pushing back against what others think you should do? Porcia's life wasn't easy. While she was married to Bibulus, a considerable war broke out. Her father and husband were on one side, fighting against Julius Caesar. It must have been a scary and uncertain time for her. Sadly, Bibulus died in 48 BCE, leaving Porcia a widow. Then, just 2 years later, her father took his own life after being defeated in battle. Porcia had lost two of the most influential men in her life in a short time. But here's the thing about Porcia: she didn't let these tragedies break her. Instead, they seemed to make her stronger. She used her experiences to grow wiser and more determined. Porcia's story reminds us that we always have a choice, no matter what life throws us. We can let difficult circumstances defeat us, or use them to become stronger and wiser. Porcia chose the latter, which made her stand out in history. In the next part of our story, we'll see how Porcia's experiences in her first marriage and her losses set the stage for a relationship that would change her life and Roman history. Are you ready to meet the man who became Porcia's true partner? Let's move on to the next chapter. Porcia and Brutus, a marriage of equals. Let's talk about a love story that would make even Shakespeare jealous. After the tough times Porcia went through, you'd think she might give up on the whole marriage thing. But life had other plans for her, which came in the form of a man named Marcus Junius Brutus. Brutus wasn't just any old Roman. He was intelligent and well-respected, and like Porcia, he was really into philosophy. But here's the kicker: he was also Porcia's first cousin. I know it sounds weird to us, but it wasn't unusual for cousins to get married back then. Brutus and Porcia's marriage was unique because it wasn't just another political arrangement. These two liked each other. Can you imagine? In a world where most marriages were about power and alliances, Brutus and Porcia found real love and respect. Brutus saw Porcia as an equal, which was rare in those days. He admired her intelligence and her strength. And Porcia? She found in Brutus a partner who appreciated her for who she was, not just for her family connections. There's this great quote from another Stoic philosopher, Marcus Aurelius. He said, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." Porcia and Brutus seemed to live by this idea. They supported each other, but also challenged each other to be better. Their marriage wasn't just about loving each other, though. They were partners in everything, including politics. Brutus often discussed essential matters with Porcia, valuing her opinion and insight. This was pretty revolutionary for the time. Think about your relationships for a moment. Do you have someone who truly sees you as an equal? Someone who values your thoughts and opinions, even if they're different from their own? That's the kind of partnership Porcia and Brutus had. But their marriage wasn't all smooth sailing. Remember, this was a time of massive political upheaval in Rome. Brutus was right in the middle of it all, and Porcia was right there with him. They faced some callous decisions together. One famous story shows just how much Porcia and Brutus trusted each other. He was stressed out when Brutus was involved in a dangerous political plot. Porcia noticed and wanted to prove she was strong enough to handle whatever secret he was keeping. So what did she do? She took a knife and cut her thigh. Yeah, you heard that right. When Brutus saw this, he was amazed by her strength and decided to tell her everything. I'm not saying you should hurt yourself to prove a point, but this story shows how dedicated Porcia was to her husband and how much she wanted to be his faithful partner, sharing in both the good and bad times. Porcia and Brutus's marriage teaches us a lot about what a strong partnership can look like. It's about mutual respect, shared values, and supporting each other through thick and thin. In a world that often told women to be quiet and stay in the background, Porcia and Brutus showed that a marriage of equals could be powerful and beautiful. As our story progresses, we'll see how this strong partnership was tested by some of the most significant events in Roman history. Are you ready to see how Portia and Brutus faced these challenges together? Let's move on to the next chapter. Practicing hardship and resilience. Now, let's dive into one of the fascinating aspects of Portia's life, her incredible resilience and how she practiced Stoic principles in real-life situations. Remember that story I mentioned earlier about Porcia cutting her thigh? Well, it's time to unpack that a bit more. This wasn't just a random act of self-harm. It was a deliberate demonstration of Porcia's strength and her commitment to Stoic ideals. Picture this. It's 44 BCE, and Rome is in turmoil. Julius Caesar has become dictator, and a group of senators, including Brutus, are planning something big. Brutus is stressed and distracted, and Portia knows something's up. But instead of just asking him what's wrong, she decides to prove that she's strong enough to handle whatever secret he's keeping. So, what does she do? She takes a small knife used for trimming nails and deliberately cuts her thigh. Yeah, you heard that right. She inflicts pain on herself, not out of desperation, but as a calculated move to prove her mental and physical toughness. When Brutus discovers what she's done, he's amazed. Portia explains that she wanted to show him that she could endure pain and keep secrets. This act convinced Brutus to confide in her about the conspiracy against Caesar. Before you think this is just some ancient version of extreme sports, let's break down what Porcia was doing here. She practiced a core Stoic principle, voluntarily embracing discomfort to build mental strength. There's this great quote from another Stoic, Seneca. He said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Portia understood this. By facing physical pain head-on, she was proving to herself and to Brutus that she could handle whatever challenges came her way. But Porcia's resilience wasn't just about physical pain. Throughout her life, she faced numerous hardships. She lost her father to suicide and her first husband to war, and lived through incredibly turbulent political times. Yet she remained strong and true to her principles. Now, I'm not suggesting you go out and hurt yourself to prove a point, but think about this. How do you handle discomfort in your life? Do you run from it? Or do you face it head on? Are there small ways you could practice resilience in your daily life? We often avoid discomfort at all costs in our modern world. Our air conditioning, comfortable chairs, and delivery services bring everything to our doorstep. But the Stoics, like Porcia, believed that occasionally embracing discomfort could make us stronger. Here are some modern ways we could apply Portia's lesson. 1. Taking cold showers to build mental toughness. 2. Fasting for a day to appreciate what we have. 3. Deliberately leaving our smartphones at home to practice being present. 4. Volunteering for challenging tasks at work or school. The idea isn't to make ourselves miserable, but to prove that we can handle more than we think. It's about building that mental muscle, just like Porcia did. Portia's life teaches us that true strength isn't about avoiding difficulties, but facing them with courage and grace. She didn't just talk about Stoic principles. She lived them, even in the most challenging circumstances. As we move forward in our story, we'll see how this strength and resilience played out in the dramatic events that followed. Portia's practice of hardship was about to be put to the ultimate test. Are you ready to see how she handled one of the most famous events in Roman history? Let's move on to the next chapter, where things heat up in ancient Rome. Lessons from Porcia CATO for modern women. All right, let's bring Portia's story into the 21st century. You might think, what can a woman who lived over 2,000 years ago teach us today? Hold on, because Porcia's life is full of surprisingly relevant lessons. Let's start with Lesson 1. Embrace resilience. Porcia lived in a world that constantly tried to push her into a neat little box labeled Roman wife. But she refused to be limited by society's expectations. Instead, she faced each challenge head-on, whether it was political turmoil, personal loss, or societal pressure. There's this powerful quote from Marcus Aurelius that captures Porcia's attitude. He said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Think about it. How often do we let external circumstances dictate our happiness or success? Porcia teaches us that true strength comes from within. It's about how we respond to challenges, not the challenges themselves. Take a moment to reflect. What's a challenge you're facing right now? How might you approach it differently if you adopted Porcia's resilient mindset? Lesson 2. Value self-worth. In a society where a woman's value was often tied to her family connections or her husband's status, Porcia dared to define her worth at that time. She educated herself, formed her opinions, and wasn't afraid to stand up for her beliefs. This lesson is just as important today. We live in a world of social media likes and constant comparison. But Porcia's life reminds us that true self-worth comes from within. It's about staying true to your values, pursuing knowledge, and having the courage to be yourself. Here's a modern application. Next time you feel inadequate on Instagram, channel your inner Porcia. Remember that likes or followers don't determine your worth, but your character and actions. And now, Lesson 3. Love fearlessly. Porcia's relationship with Brutus was revolutionary for its time. They were partners in the truest sense, supporting each other through thick and thin. Porcia wasn't afraid to challenge Brutus or to stand by him in dangerous times. Epictetus, another Stoic philosopher, said, "The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best." Porcia and Brutus embodied this idea. In our modern world of dating apps and ghosting, Porcia's approach to love is refreshing. She teaches us true partnership is about mutual respect, shared values, and unwavering support. Think about your relationships. Do they bring out the best in you? Do you feel respected and valued? If not, what would Porcia do? Now, I'm not saying Porcia was perfect. She lived in a very different world with its own set of problems. But the core of her approach to life, resilience, self-worth, and fearless love, are timeless. So, how can we apply these lessons in our daily lives? 1. Practice resilience. Start small. It could be taking on a new challenge at work or learning a new skill. Build that mental toughness muscle. 2. Define your worth. Write down your values. What truly matters to you? Let these guide your decisions, not societal expectations. 3. Love fearlessly. In your relationships, strive for mutual respect and support. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable, but don't hesitate to stand up for yourself. Remember, Porcia didn't just passively accept the philosophies she was taught. She lived them, tested them, and made them her own. And that's the biggest lesson of all. Don't just read about these ideas. Try them out. See what works for you. As we wrap up Porcia's story, think about how you can be the Porcia of your own life. How can you face your challenges with resilience, value yourself, and love fearlessly? In our final chapter, we'll look at Porcia's lasting legacy and how her story continues to inspire women and men to this day. Are you ready to see how one woman's life from ancient Rome still echoes in our modern world? Let's move on. Porcia, CATO's legacy, and modern relevance. As we near the end of our journey through Porcia CATO's life, let's zoom out and look at the big picture. What lasting impact did this remarkable woman have, and why does her story still matter to us today? First, let's talk about Porcia's historical impact. In a time when women were often footnotes in history, Porcia managed to leave her mark. She wasn't just remembered as Brutus's wife or Cato's daughter, but as a formidable individual in her own right. Historians and writers in ancient times, like Plutarch, wrote about Porcia with admiration. They praised her courage, her intelligence, and her unwavering loyalty. In a world dominated by men, Porcia stood out as a shining example of female strength and wisdom. But Porcia's legacy goes beyond just her historical significance. Her story continues to resonate with us today, offering valuable lessons for our modern world. Think about it. We're living in a time of rapid change and uncertainty. Political tensions, social upheavals, and personal challenges sound familiar. These were the very waters Porcia had to navigate in her own time. Porcia's life shows us that it's possible to maintain our integrity and stay true to our principles, even in the face of tremendous pressure. In our world of fake news and shifting values, her commitment to truth and honor is more relevant than ever. Moreover, Porcia's example challenges us to rethink our ideas about strength and resilience. In a culture that often equates strength with aggression or dominance, Porcia offers a different model. Her strength came from her intellect, moral courage, and unwavering commitment to her beliefs. How do you define strength in your own life? Are there ways you could embrace Porcia's model of strength, one based on wisdom, integrity, and resilience? Porcia's story also speaks to our ongoing conversations about gender equality. While we've made significant progress since Porcia's time, many of the challenges she faced, being underestimated, fighting for her voice to be heard, balancing personal relationships with broader societal expectations, are issues that many women and men still grapple with today. However, the most potent aspect of Porcia's legacy is how she embodied the principles she believed in. She didn't just talk about Stoicism or honor. She lived these ideals, even when difficult or dangerous. In our world of social media influencers and carefully curated public images, Porcia's authenticity is refreshing and inspiring. She reminds us that actual influence comes not from what we say, but from how we live our lives. So, how can we carry Porcia's legacy forward? 1. Embrace education and critical thinking. Porcia valued knowledge and wasn't afraid to form her own opinions. In our age of information overload, her approach is more crucial than ever. 2. Stand up for your principles. Porcia didn't back down from her beliefs, even when it was risky. While we might not face the same dangers, we can still show moral courage daily. 3. Seek equal partnerships. Porcia and Brutus's relationship was ahead of its time. Let's strive for romantic or otherwise relationships based on mutual respect and support. 4. Practice resilience. Porcia faced numerous challenges, but remained strong. We can cultivate our resilience through mindfulness, self-reflection, and embracing challenges as opportunities for growth. Now, think about how you can be a modern-day Porcia. How can you embody strength, wisdom, and integrity in your own life? How can you make your mark on history, even if it's just in your small corner of the world? Porcia CATO may have lived over 2,000 years ago, but her brave, moral, and resilient spirit is timeless. Her story isn't just a dusty page in a history book. It's a call to action, challenging us to live with courage, integrity, and purpose. Well, we've come to the end of our journey through the life of Porcia CATO. We've seen a woman who lived over 2 millennia ago face challenges that, in many ways, mirror our own. Let's take a moment to recap the key points of Porcia's extraordinary life and see how we can apply her wisdom in our modern world. Remember how Porcia grew up surrounded by Stoic philosophy? She didn't just study it, she lived it. In a world that tried to confine her, Porcia stood tall. She educated herself, formed her opinions, and wasn't afraid to stand up for her beliefs. In our age of information overload and fake news, Porcia's commitment to critical thinking and personal integrity is more relevant than ever. We saw how Porcia navigated the complex world of Roman politics and social expectations. Despite the constraints placed on women in her time, she found ways to make her voice heard and her influence felt. This reminds us that no matter what limitations others might try to place on us, we always have the power to shape our path. Porcia's marriage to Brutus showed us what a true partnership looks like. In a time when women were often seen as property, Porcia and Brutus built a relationship based on mutual respect, shared values, and unwavering support. It's a model that still has much to teach us about love and partnership today. And who could forget Porcia's incredible display of resilience? Whether facing personal loss, political turmoil, or societal pressures, Porcia met each challenge head-on. She reminds us that true strength comes from avoiding and facing difficulties with courage and grace. Now, let's bring it all together with this powerful quote from the Stoic philosopher Epictetus. Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. Doesn't that sound like Porcia's life philosophy in a nutshell? So I ask you, how will you best use what's in your power? How will you carry Porcia's legacy forward in your own life? Here's your call to action. 1. Embrace continuous learning. Challenge yourself to learn something new every day, just as Porcia did. 2. Stand up for your principles. Find a cause you believe in and take action, no matter how small. 3. Build solid and supportive relationships. Surround yourself with people who uplift you and bring out your best. 4. Practice resilience. Face your challenges head-on, knowing that each obstacle is an opportunity for growth. Remember, you don't have to change the course of an empire to make a difference. Small, consistent actions can create powerful ripples of change in your life and the lives of those around you. As we close this chapter on Porcia's life, I hope her story has inspired you. It's shown you that the wisdom of the past can light our way forward. Most of all, it reminds you of the strength, resilience, and potential within each of us. So what lesson from Porcia Cato's life will you apply today? How will you be the Porcia of your own story? Thank you for joining me on this journey through time. If you've enjoyed this exploration of Porcia's life and Stoic philosophy, remember to like, subscribe, and share this video with others who might find inspiration in her story. And remember, in the words of Marcus Aurelius, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Go out there and be the author of your epic tale. Until next time, stay with the Stoic community.